What's happening, people? Did Trump cut funding to Ukraine? That is the rumor on the street. And we're going to be covering Trump's speech to Congress live tonight. And I can't wait to hear the Democrat response. It's going to be a good one. So stay tuned. What's going on, folks? Happy Tuesday. Got a great show for you. We're going to be covering a lot of different things tonight. We will be covering Trump's speech live. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit like, subscribe, all those good things. Make sure you guys are joining us typically every Monday and every Thursday. We keep waffling around a little bit on that with the Counter Media podcast, but then every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time with Dangerous Liberty. Chris is joining us. He was having some technical difficulties just a few minutes ago. Oh, God. I literally removed him on accident.
I'm here. Don't worry. Don't stress, Gary.
I mean,
apologies, everyone. All kinds of technical difficulties.
We had like 10,000 people in the chat, and then it just dropped down to nothing almost as soon as you showed up.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You just watch. Those numbers are going to come up now.
Hey, I want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. Jason, TG sponsor, John Rollins, Harold Shepard, Tommy Hager, Jeff Johnson, John Rollins. Who else we got here? AM, good to see you. Shania. I know I always butcher your name. I love you, Shania. So we get J-Rock 216, Country Gal for Life. Good to see you, Country Gal for Life. I don't think I've seen you in the comments before. It's good to see you. Team 55 MX and everybody else that's tuning in. We're streaming live right now on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Yeah. So anyways, we got a lot to cover tonight. We were planning on going one direction with tonight's show. This happens a lot. And then, of course, we realized that Trump was going to be going live tonight, so we wanted to cover that. But we got a few things for you. But Shauna, I know you've told me that before. The J is silent. All right. I'll try to get it right, Shauna.
I think I got it right the first time I said it, but anyway. You'll catch up.
You can't even say aluminum correctly. But real quick, I want to open up with a little bit of parody, a little something funny. I saw this today. I almost died. I thought you guys would enjoy it. And for YouTube and all the other algorithms out there looking for good reasons to censor us, this is a joke. This is not being passed to be real. It's funny. It's a parody. Grow up. Quit censoring people, you commies.
That baggie belonged to Hunter. You know, I think the Secret Service probably still has it somewhere.
I have been stealing the money.
I'm sorry, what's that now?
I must to speak honestly. I steal many of USA dollars to Ukraine. Millions. Some dollars for some oligarchs also. Some for American bureaucrats also.
Well, we know that, but why are you telling me this?
Because, Mr. Trump, if you end war, we cannot steal any more money. We must continue war.
No, the war must end. Your people are dying, Zelensky. They're dying.
But I want to steal more money. What do you want? Fellatio, I can do it.
No, I don't want fellatio. No.
Are you sure? I did for Biden.
Okay, that is what we call oversharing. Look, there's nothing you have that I want. You're not going to convince me to keep this war going. You don't have the cards.
I not play cards.
No, I know you're not literally playing cards. It's a metaphor. It's like I'm playing 4D chess and you're playing checkers.
No, I not play checkers. There is no checkerboard, you see.
Okay, let's try this. I am in the driver's seat, okay? Do you understand that expression?
No, but we are not in car.
No, you're right. We're not in a car. That's true.
Listen, Mr. Trump, I am actor/comedian. I crave attention. Since the start of war, I get worshipped by presidents. I'm worshipped by Hollywood. If war ends, no more attention, no more worship. With all due respect, Mr. Trump, this war must last forever.
I tell you what, if you agree to end this war, we will do a remake of Friends, and you can play Ukrainian Chandler Bing.
Well, you know, I think there's a lot of truth in that little video. I do think that there is a lot of motivation for Zelensky to keep this war going, to keep the money flowing, and also the attention. I think all of those things are actually true to some extent. So He clearly doesn't want this war to end. But there's been rumors all today. Chris was kind of informing me. I've been busy all day. I literally just a few minutes prior to this, I was filming a video on some suppressor covers. But anyways, apparently there's a lot of rumors running around that seem to be nearly authenticated that Trump did cut funding to Ukraine. And Chris, fill everybody in on that, what you heard with that.
Yeah, just give me 1 sec. I'll bring up the articles saved somewhere. A little behind schedule. Like we've actually got a cyclone on the way here. I think you know them as hurricanes over there. But yeah, Cyclone Alfred is heading straight towards Brisbane.
They're called hurricanes. What you guys call them is whatever. That'll change.
Well, it's happening in Australia. It just wouldn't make sense.
Once we make Australia the 52nd state, you guys will get things right. We're going to get you guys under control, rein you in a little bit, make you say aluminum correctly, not aluminium, add all kinds of different syllables that are not needed. Just
the syllables there, you guys chopped them off, okay? We don't need to relitigate this every time. You guys you struggled all those syllables, and you're like, we just got to cut them off. We don't have the articulation skills of the British and the rest of the world, basically. So, you got to chop off.
Hold on, let me address this. So, Susie, let's just clear this up. So, first of all, someone that has worked for the Department of State, that has watched some of these things unfold, I can tell you right now, what we saw was completely unprecedented, and not by Trump or Vice President Vance. What we saw was completely unprecedented by a visiting world leader that came to the White House and started to bitch in front of cameras. This has never been done before. It will probably never be done again. And even his own people, his own parliament, and everybody back there. I mean, this was a shock to the world, and not because of what the response of President Trump and Vance was. Okay, what we saw was something that broke all decorum when it comes to any sort of diplomatic relations, how things are conducted from a diplomatic standpoint. We've never seen that before. And the reason is what he did was absolutely shameful to sit in front of the United States press and world press, right, and start bitching about things that should have been discussed behind closed doors. All J.D. Vance did was respond and admonish him for being disrespectful at the White House as a guest to the people that are giving him the money. Like, we don't owe Ukraine anything. Ukraine owes us everything. They literally owe us for their existence. So for you to come on here, or any idiot, you're not an idiot. I'm going to reel this back a little bit. For anybody to sit there and watch what we saw, and then you analyze it and you come to the conclusion that J.D. Vance and President Trump were disrespectful or bullies is absolutely insane. You have lost touch with reality. That is a fact, and I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, we went over it in the last show and where it all went down. I mean, there were a couple of little things leading up to it, but basically it was when Zelensky turned to Vance and basically said, what diplomacy are you talking about? That's where it all fell apart, because they're there for diplomacy. And there's Zelensky coming over, knowing what Trump has said publicly and privately about what they're willing to do, what the deal is going to be. And there's Zelensky just ridiculing the whole process, the whole concept of any diplomacy whatsoever. He said just before that, maybe 10 minutes before that, we make sure there are no compromises. I think he specified on territory, which is just delusional. That just means the war will never end.
Yeah.
Which is like, what are you doing here? Go home then.
Yeah.
So it was quite, and Vance even said at a few points after it started going off the rails, like we should probably do it in private. But I suppose by that point it was too late, and Trump even said, well, we should probably, no, it's good that the American people see this. Because, I think it's clear for most people that Zelensky doesn't want peace. He wants to fight and kick Russia off every inch of their territory, including Crimea, which is a recipe for a forever war, despite what they say. Zelensky made a few comments now like, oh, well, we really want to end the war, and nobody wants to end the war more than Ukrainians. But it goes against everything else he said and everything else he stands for in terms of no compromises on territory and kicking Russia completely out. And we keep hearing this thing, we can't reward Russia for aggression. That sounds nice. That's a nice little slogan, but it defies reality. And to not reward him would also mean not letting them have Crimea, where we discussed before, the people of Crimea are happy as part of Russia. So everyone talks about getting Crimea back, talking about dragging them back to Ukraine against their will. Because what? Because who was it in the 50s? The Soviets just added that part to Ukraine sort of arbitrarily, even though it had been sort of Russian for hundreds of years before that. They had these sort of big 100-year leases on that Sevastopol base, which is Russia's only base that doesn't get frozen over halfway through the year.
Yeah. Yeah, Susie, I mean, that's just factually not. First of all, welcome, Susie. I don't know if I've seen you in the comments before. We definitely want to hear all sides of this, but again, that's just factually not correct. We don't even know what the deal is, so there's that part of it. The other part of this is that Ukraine doesn't have a whole lot of leverage here. All right, for their own for them to exist, they're going to need the help of the EU and the United States. They would have, if it wasn't for the United States, they'd already be overrun. We should get our money back, and the way that we get security, and we talked about this the last show. If Ukraine wants security, then you better ask the United States to invest heavily in Ukraine, where we're putting U.S. Companies there, U.S. industries there, U.S. personnel there, U.S. diplomats there. All of those things that are going to require the protection of the United States military. And what you're getting is an economic relationship that, by the way, it just so happens to come with a lot of military protection as well. So once we get those things in place and we have a joint partnership with Ukraine where we're actually benefiting from this relationship, and it's not just a one-way street, we're getting economic benefit, and we have economic interest tied up into that country, which we don't very much at the moment, other than apparently we're doing a lot of gain of function, a lot of gain of function research over there, and doing a lot of other things that the United States doesn't want on the radar. That's what Ukraine is being used for. They're being used by the United States. What we want to do is partner with them. And with that is going to come security. So this is just not true. Number one, we don't even know what the entirety of the deal is. We barely know anything about the deal. So I think you're listening to news sources that are giving you a very one-sided view of this, as opposed to the actual truth. And that's what we're seeing in the mainstream media, and I'm including Fox News. All right, they're gaslighting people and getting them all worked up, and they're running around saying things that they believe to be as true that just isn't true. They're going to have plenty of country left, but chances are Ukraine is going to have to make some major concessions if we want peace and we want people to stop dying. Because what will happen is the United States will pull out, EU is going to be left doing something. They're not going to fight. The European Union doesn't fight in anything, and what will end up happening is Russia will control and occupy that entire country. And that's what we'd be left with. So I think it just makes sense what's going on here. And I think you need to, I don't know, I encourage you to look at some different news sources. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the deal would likely be Russia controlling the territories that they've taken in the Donbass and Crimea, and maybe not allowing Ukraine into NATO. There might be some kind of guarantee that maybe Europe can come up with. Trump's offered the minerals deal as basically the best guarantee that he can get by putting US companies sort of on the ground. I have to look more into it. Apparently there's not even too many minerals in Ukraine. I have to double check. That might be another little point or whatever, but the deal wouldn't be the whole thing. I mean, it probably might be the whole thing if the war continues, because Ukraine can't defeat Russia. So they should take a deal where Russia will probably take most of what they have now and Ukraine will be left with the rest. And sure, that's like not ideal for some people. That might not seem nice or proper, but that's how you end the war. And it's not the worst thing in the world anyway. Crimea, Donetsk, Lugansk. I'm not so sure about the other two regions that they took more recently, but those three regions, they're happy to be in Russia for the most part, and it's not worth extending this war.
No.
There can't be one to stop that. I mean, it's basically already happened. If I can remember, I might bring up a map, because basically as soon as Russia moved in, they sort of fortified around Donetsk, Lugansk, and a few other regions to make a land bridge to Crimea. And basically they fortified in there, and they've held those positions ever since. And I think that's mainly what they're after. They did sort of advance to Kiev and sort of pulled back and things like that. But if you look at the map, very early on, they dug into these regions that they have now, and they've just solidified it. And Ukraine have tried counteroffensive after counteroffensive and just lost so many men. Russia is stuck in there. They're not going anywhere. And if we can do a deal, that could be it. Russia could be happy with that, with no Ukraine and NATO. So they have the propaganda that Russia can't be trusted and Russia wants to invade all of Ukraine and then all of, the old USSR countries to reestablish the Soviet Union. But I don't think that's true at all. There's really no proof of that. I was watching a debate actually with Scott Horton, who's really good on this. He's got that book Provoked on all this kind of stuff. And someone was trying to say, Putin said he wants to create the USSR. He said that. And Scott Horton's like, well, the quote that people use is like, if you don't lament the fall of the Soviet Union, you don't have a heart. But if you want to recreate it, you don't have a brain. And Scott Horton says they always chop out that second part of it. And there's no real evidence that he wants to push them from USSR. And, we've gone through the history. It's a complex history anyway. Ukraine's no angel. America's no angel in this either. We should, if there's a chance, and there is a good chance, despite what everyone is saying, to do a deal where Russia will take those Russian-speaking regions, where a lot of people do want to be part of Russia anyway, and Ukrainians in the West have a lot of disdain for the people in Crimea and Donetsk and Lugansk. They see them as backward. They're all brainwashed by Russians. These are the people on the ground. They don't even see them as their own people. Anyway, it's not the worst thing in the world for them to split. And, there's been all kinds of splits like that have made sense throughout history as well.
Well, I think we need to realize that whatever the U.S. media, good, bad, or indifferent, is, the fact is that we're getting a very myopic view of the totality of what's going on, especially coming from the Biden administration. What we saw in Ukraine, I don't think even represented a reality over those years, especially. We're being made to believe that Ukraine is a victim. They're completely without without any sort of fault whatsoever in the U.S. We haven't done anything, but all we've done is great things over there, and then that Putin and Russia are just evil. That's all we really need to know. And they've invaded it. And none of those things are true. It's more of a centrist view of all of that. Yeah, look, Russia is not our friend. They are not great people. They've done some things wrong, but I don't think they're as bad as the media has tried to make them out to be, because they're not telling you the full story. And guess what? Ukraine and the United States are not without fault, or have a lot more fault, and have caused a lot of this, especially the United States, and the things that we've been doing for the last 10 years or so have caused a lot of this, and have intentionally provoked Russia into doing what it's done. And so, I think we need to step back, observe, and objectively analyze what's really been going on to get some idea of the truth out there.
I actually do have a good clip, which I might put on now, from Jeffrey Sachs. He sort of sums up some of the backstory that might help before we press on to the latest kind of news. Sums a lot of history up, I think, in this little speech here.
What was Putin's intention in the war? Not the propaganda that's written about this. That they failed and he was going to take over Ukraine. The idea was to keep NATO, and what is NATO? It's the United States, off of Russia's border. No more, no less. When the Soviet Union ended in 1991, and an agreement was made that NATO will not move 1 inch eastward. Now, what happened after 1991, the United States decided there would be no end to eastward enlargement of NATO. And the decision was taken formally in 1994. When President Clinton signed off on NATO enlargement to the east, all the way to Ukraine and into Georgia. So the NATO enlargement, as you know, started in 1999 with Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic. And Russia was extremely unhappy about it, but these were countries still far from the border. So the next round of NATO enlargement came in 2004. With the 3 Baltic states, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and Slovakia. At this point, Russia was pretty damn upset. So as everybody recalls, in 2007, President Putin said, stop, enough. And of course, what that meant was in 2008, the United States jammed down Europe's throat enlargement of NATO to Ukraine and to Georgia. This is right up against Russia. And Russia protested because if Russia decided to have a military base on the Rio Grande or the Canadian border, not only would the United States freak out, we'd have war within about 10 minutes. And a month later, a war broke out. That gets Georgia destroyed. And starting in 2010, the U.S. put in Aegis missile systems in Poland and then in Romania. And Russia doesn't like that. In 2010, Viktor Yanukovych was elected on the platform of neutrality. Russia had no territorial interests or designs in Ukraine at all. What Russia was negotiating was a 25-year lease for Sevastopol naval base. That's it. Not for Crimea, not for the Donbass, nothing. In 2014, the U.S. worked actively to overthrow Yanukovych. Everybody knows the phone call by my Columbia University colleague, Victoria Nuland, and the U.S. Ambassador Peter Piot. Listen to it. It's fascinating.
I don't think Cleach should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea. I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience, and, fuck the EU.
No, exactly. And I think we've got to do something to make...
You don't get better evidence. Then came Minsk, and especially Minsk II. It said there should be autonomy for the Russian-speaking regions in the east of Ukraine. It was supported unanimously by the UN Security Council. The United States and Ukraine decided it was not to be enforced. There were many thousands of deaths in the shelling by Ukraine in the Donbass. And one of the issues on the table in December 2021, January 2022, was, does the United States claim the right to put missile systems in Ukraine? And Blinken told Lavrov in January 2022, the United States reserves the right to put missile systems wherever it wants. So the war started. What was Putin's intention in the war? It was to force Zelensky to negotiate neutrality. And that happened within 7 days of the start of the invasion. Ukraine walked away unilaterally from a near agreement. Why? Because the United States told them to. The idea was that there would be Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Georgia that would deprive Russia of any international status by blocking the Black Sea. And the American senators, who are as nasty and cynical and corrupt as imaginable, say this is wonderful expenditure of our money because no Americans are dying. It's the pure proxy war. And since the U.S. talked the negotiators away from the table, about 1 million Ukrainians have died or been severely wounded.
Yeah, and just on that, we hear about this meeting where they were going to do some kind of a deal, but Boris Johnson and I think America persuaded Ukraine to fight on. This is from Foreign Affairs magazine, from Fiona Hill. So this isn't Russian propaganda. She's very anti-Russian. But buried within this article. Yeah,
hold on, real quick, Chris. Hey, number one, Susie, I hope you don't go anywhere. Number two, guys, and I'm guilty of this too, but I try to rein it in at some point. I don't know that we want to hear everybody's opinion. So try to avoid things like, do you hate Russia? Do you hate the United States or other things like that? Again, let's do our best to be as inclusive as possible. And I'm probably the worst offender among us, but we do want to hear counterpoints. And Susie, I hope you stay around. And I don't know why your other comments weren't going through. It's nothing that we're doing on this side. I can assure you that.
Yeah, so this was just the article basically saying, there was a deal they were close to where Russia would withdraw to its position before the war, when it controlled part of Donbass and all of Crimea, and in exchange, Ukraine would promise not to seek NATO membership and instead receive security guarantees from a number of countries. I imagine not the US and not a full-on security guarantee, but, they had this sort of deal here. And since then, Ukraine have only lost more territory since this. They won't get a deal as good as this anymore. And apparently it was Boris Johnson who went there. I've got another article, which I won't bring up, but I'll just read it from Ukrainsky Pravda. It was a Ukrainian, semi-mainstream source, I think. according to Ukraine's Pravda sources close to Zelensky, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, who appeared in the capital almost without warning, brought two simple messages. This is why they were negotiating. The first is that Putin is a war criminal and he should be pressured, not negotiated with. And the second is that even if Ukraine is ready to sign some agreements on guarantees with Putin, they are not. And then there was Lavrov commenting on the same thing just recently, actually.
Vladimir
Russian- I
Putin,
think he's the
president
Prime
of the
Minister.
Russian Federation, has said that many times, reminding that in Istanbul 3 years ago, we were maybe 1 hour away from signing a full-scale agreement. But Boris Johnson banned Ukraine from doing that. And in an interview, a Ukrainian official publicly confirmed this fact, that 3 years ago they had been ready to sign, but they were forbidden to do that.
Yes, basically. Yeah, so that was, however many hundreds of thousands of lives ago. And Ukraine won't get a deal that good. There's just no chance of it. And the longer they drag this out, the more people that die, and the worse deal that Ukraine will get.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I don't think Zelensky or the rest of the world understands. Like, the more the United States invests, the more Russia has to throw into this conflict, the less he has to bargain with, and the higher the stakes. And let me tell you something: if the European Union starts putting troops into Ukraine, I think we can almost guarantee we're going to be looking at World War III. That's what's going to happen, because what's going to end up happening is suddenly we got European Union folks out there, and then they're going to end up getting killed. And next thing you know, they're going to be talking about how we should be going to war because of our NATO agreements. Like, this is a recipe for disaster. And the best thing that can happen is us to shut this off immediately. Because guess what? Looking 3 years from now, after 2 years of World War III and possibly a nuclear holocaust, we're going to look back and we're like, man, Ukraine sure as hell wasn't worth all this. And it's not. It's not. Like, we need to end this where it is. We need to let them, like, you know what? If it's a matter of giving Russia all of the current territory that they now claim in and they now hold in Ukraine, and it's the best deal that they're going to get, because this war could have ended before it started in Istanbul, just like you talked about, where Zelensky was dumb enough to let Boris Johnson convince him not to take a much better deal. That deal's gone, and he has no cards. He has no way to negotiate, and there's nothing in it for the rest of the world other than stupidity. Well, there is. What we have is military-industrial complexes worldwide, not just here in the United States, that are going to benefit from this war, and I think they actually have an interest in escalating this war to some extent.
Yeah, and if we might come to it later, the response to Trump, not being so supportive of Zelensky fighting this war till forever, basically, Europe is stepping up, and they're going to pump a whole much more money into military funding. And I think the head of the EU, I forget her name, van der Leyen or whatever it is, we might cover it later. She put out a video called she announced the Rearm Europe project. And I'm pretty sure it involves hundreds of billions of dollars put towards the military industrial complex in Europe in various ways. And there's the deal with the UK and Ukraine, which they also agreed to. Actually, I'll just quickly bring that one up. Because, a couple of weeks ago, there was a deal between Ukraine and the UK. And, of course, I've got a million links. And here we go.
A million links? I think you're an exaggerator.
Million, okay, maybe 500,000. All right. So there was this, signed in January sometime, a 100-year agreement, some kind of mineral aspect to it as well, a whole bunch of stuff in here. But the bit that stuck out to me where is it? So, 100-year of symbolic support or whatever. But, yeah. The political declaration also reiterates the government's commitment to providing £3 billion a year in military assistance until 2030-31 and to support Ukraine for as long as needed. So Trump's trying to get a deal to end the war. He keeps saying, I just want people to stop dying. I want the war to end. Here's the UK, on the other hand, saying, no, we'll just keep giving military funding to Ukraine until 2031. You know how many more years do they want this year to go for? And, of course, it's a general support for 100 years. So, yeah, it's like Trump wants to end the war. Europe and Ukraine want to keep it going.
Yeah.
Forever, because it is sort of weakening Russia. It's a big pain for them, and Russia's the enemy for them. They like doing that. As Lindsey Graham said, this is the best investment they could. What's that, Swalwell? Mr. Fang Fang? What's the guy, the Democrat guy? He said the same thing just recently. He said it's the best investment. Just same as, like, they keep both of them, him and Graham, the Republican and the Democrat. It's the best investment because Russians are dying and we don't have to send any troops yet.
Well, never mind all their stock holdings that they have in, Northrop Grumman and whoever else, not them directly, but their friends and family. Are you getting ready to play the Vance interview? Is that what you're pulling up right there?
Yeah, maybe the next one after this. This is just a recap from the White House press secretary. She's always good to watch. Summing up the Zelensky thing.
Joining me now, Caroline Levitt, White
Then we'll move into the Vance thing, because, Vance had a good interview with Hannity explaining all this.
House Press Secretary. Caroline, you were in the room where it all happened. Take us inside that room for a moment, would you? And then please tell us what you believe the president will say in response to what Zelensky said on Bret Baier's show.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Laura. And it was incredibly tense in that room, and things turned bad and bitter very quickly because, unfortunately, President Zelensky refuses to recognize the pragmatic reality about the war that his country is facing. This war has been going on for years. His countrymen are dying. And most of all, President Zelensky failed to recognize that he's walking into the Oval Office with a new sheriff in town. And that sheriff is Donald Trump. And he is a peacemaker in chief. He wants this war to end. And he understands that his people, the American people, are sick and tired of footing the bill for this war to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. And so it's very unfortunate for the Ukrainian people and for President Zelensky that he walked in with this mindset of give from the American people without much gratitude for what the American people have done for his country over the past few years. And so he was on the brink of signing an economic agreement that would have ensured economic prosperity for the Ukrainian people and recouped American tax dollars for funding this war. Instead, because of his rude and antagonistic ways, the deal blew up in his face. President Trump wants peace. He remains committed to that. But President Zelensky either needs to change his attitude or perhaps he can't make a deal at all.
Well, Caroline, we're hearing different narratives tonight, but is President Trump in the mood at all to revisit this mineral deal, given what happened earlier today?
Well, I think the president remains committed to peace, and he wants to see this war end. That has been the president's intention all along. Don't forget, he talked about this extensively on the campaign trail as soon as he was elected on November 5th, before he was even inaugurated. He talked to Zelensky. His team started negotiations to end this war, and more has been done in a month by President Trump and his team to move towards a tangible and lasting peace than the previous 3 years under the
Caroline,
the
back
past
to that.
administration.
I'm sorry to interrupt. But Caroline, I'm talking about the deal. Of course, you were all set up. You had the table set up, the room set up to sign that mineral deal.
That's right.
And what now?
Well, we'll have to see, and it's up to President Trump, the next move that he makes. But I think he made it very clear today in asking President Zelensky and the Ukrainians to leave the White House that Zelensky is not in the right mindset. And again, the minerals deal was an economic framework, and it was the first step towards a peace deal. But Zelensky came into the Oval Office talking about security guarantees, talking about what Europe wants to do. Well, the president has been talking to Europe, too. He had the leaders of France and the UK hear this this week precisely to talk about how to end this war. And so, again, it's unfortunate circumstances for President Zelensky, but the president is not going to back down in doing what's right for the American people. And that's what this economic partnership was. It would have recouped the hundreds of billions of dollars that we've funded towards this war, and it would have been good for the Ukrainian people as well.
Caroline.
Yeah, because that mineral deal was, basically the best security deal America's going to give by putting the companies in there. But Zelensky wanted to litigate in front of everyone to get more. Look, I understand he would like to get more, but it's just not going to happen. And he has to sort of like understand the reality of the situation. Because as Trump said, some people like to mock it. But when Trump said you don't have the cards, that's a very important point that everyone's missing. Because this is just how the real world works. You do need the cards.
Well, and it does seem like from certain reports I've seen today that Zelensky is changing his tone to some extent.
Yeah, he did put out a tweet that was a little more, we do want a deal and we do open to this. We might bring it up later, a recent tweet. Yeah, which came sort of skipping ahead a little bit because Trump, he made a comment that in a presser, which I'll hopefully come to after this, he said, Russia wants to make a deal. And he sort of said something like, if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, meaning Zelensky, then somebody probably won't last very long. We need someone there that wants to make a deal. And then there's this report of the aid getting cut, which I'll bring up in a sec as well. And then after that, he's a little bit more coming around a little bit. Not quite, though. He's still trying to dictate terms about what kind of ceasefire. He wants a specific ceasefire with planes and something or other, but not too much else. He still thinks he's sort of in charge, but he's slowly coming around, I think, after what Trump's sort of done.
You know, one of the things that I keep hearing in the media, and I've even seen on this in the comments of both this video and during our live chats, but also in the comments of some of the videos after they posted, but I've seen this a lot in the media. And that is like, we can't end this war now because Putin needs to pay. All right. You know, people want justice and they want Russia to be punished for invading Ukraine. And that is crazy. That is, number one, that doesn't happen in the real world. All we do often when we're dealing with a nuclear power, especially, is like we end things, we have some sort of agreements, and if other countries want to put sanctions or whatever else on said country, they can. But there's no bringing Putin to justice because you think it's unjust for him to invade Ukraine. And that sentiment on the world stage is absolutely insane to me. Russia is far more justified at least in their own mind, in invading Ukraine than we ever were for invading Iraq. And do Iraqis get some sort of justice from the United States? We went in, we've killed millions of Iraqis. We took down a leader and then we basically killed him without any real justification other than this farce that we said that there was, weapons of mass destruction that there never actually was. So the U.S. has done far worse in Iraq than and by the way, not only did we commit atrocities on these people that we had no business, bombing them, bombing the governments, including their leaders that we think are despicable and have been accused of all this crazy stuff, which I'm sure some of the stuff they're absolutely guilty of. But the other thing that we did, the damage that we did to our own people, the generations of Americans that have been damaged, destroyed, are going through PTSD, the families that were left without a father, a brother, a sister, a mother, the damage that we did to our own country and our own people, because we went into Iraq under far less pretense and justification than Russia ever had that going into Ukraine. It's crazy to me that people would see this and that, hey, you know what, our vision on this idea, our vision of what's going on in Ukraine is the perfect way to look at this, and yet we have the track record that we have. We went into Iraq under false pretense. American people, you need to look at and realize chances are 3/4 of what you're probably being told is bullshit. You just need to know that. And it probably is. And just looking at the overall what's going on under there, you can't trust the government and you can't trust its media because they will lie to you. And the next thing you know, you have generational damage because in fighting wars and losing Americans and everything that goes along with that for what? were lies. So, like, you need to wake up and open your eyes and understand that war is almost never a good idea. And then going over there and meddling in affairs that, by the way, we created the conditions to which they now exist. It's nuts to me.
Yeah, I mean, Russia has much more of a claim of a threat from Ukraine than America did from Iraq or anything like that. You know, and yeah, America's sort of there. I actually just have a quick little one. Where are we? This is George Bush too. 2008 was when they first sort of decided, well, not a pivotal point where they said they had the Bucharest summit, NATO Bucharest summit, where and the quote is, Ukraine and Georgia will be in NATO. And this is around the same
Spent a
time.
lot of time talking about NATO. First, I do want to remind people that
I think that's the old Ukrainian.
Ukraine and the NATO alliance have built a strong partnership. Ukraine is the only non-NATO nation supporting every NATO mission. In Afghanistan and Iraq, Ukrainian troops are helping to support young democracies. In Kosovo, Ukrainians are helping keep the peace.
With Kosovo, Russia often makes the comparison. He said, we annexed Crimea. Well, they don't call it annex, I guess, but we took whatever they say. They took Crimea after a vote, and that's the worst thing in the world. Kosovo was ripped apart of Serbia without any vote whatsoever. But that's somehow democracy, and that's a good thing or whatever. Anyway.
Ukraine now seeks to deepen its cooperation with the NATO alliance through a membership action plan. Your nation has made a bold decision, and the United States strongly supports your request.
Why?
In Bucharest this week, I will continue to make America's position clear. We support MAP for Ukraine and Georgia. Helping Ukraine move toward NATO membership is in the interest of every member in the alliance, and will help advance security and freedom in this region and around the world.
Anyway. So, yeah, a lot of backstory they don't really tell you about. And another aspect that hasn't been touched on too much is that when Putin did invade in 22, he obviously talked a lot about NATO, but there was, because we mentioned before the Donetsk People's Republic and the Lugansk People's Republic, they voted for their independence. They had sort of leaders. You can call them sort of Russian puppet leaders or whatever. But just beforehand, they did an appeal to be recognized, because they voted in 2014. Russia didn't recognize them. But after it was clear the Minsk agreements were breaking down, and apparently it looked like Ukraine were rearming and they were getting ready for another assault like they did before the Minsk agreements. And so they appealed again just before the war to be recognized, and then Putin did recognize them. And then these leaders then did an appeal. They're like, thanks for recognizing us. Now, on our behalf, can you come and save us from Ukraine? You've recognized us as independent countries. I mean, this is all sort of like pretext, sort of orchestrated in a way. But basically, Donetsk and Lugansk, they did reach out to Putin and said, okay, you've recognized us as independent things. We had a little vote. Ukraine are about to assault us again. Can you come and save us? We appeal for you for intervention. And then Putin, he called it a special military operation to save Donbass and make sure Ukraine is not in NATO. So that's another part of it as well. So Ukraine were about to attack these little regions, and Putin moved in. If I remember, I'll show a map later, because basically the regions that Putin have locked in are those regions, and I think they're the main regions they sort of want. The idea they wanted the whole country, I'm not even sure about that, to be honest. To be fair, they did advance on Kiev, and it sort of looks like they failed and Ukraine pushed them back. But I think there's a bit more to all that. Putin, for whatever it's worth, says that during those talks, during the deal that Boris Johnson stopped, they pulled back as a sign of goodwill. Maybe that's, complete bullshit or whatever, but that's the Russian perspective. Most of which we don't hear, which is important because we only hear the one side of it. And if we do hear the Russian perspective, it's sort of strawmanned as this ridiculous nonsense, not to be taken seriously. But that's the end of my rambling for now. Let's move on to JD Vance, eh?
Yeah, we got about 15 minutes before the show with Trump starts.
Good to see you, man. Great to be
Go ahead, play.
here.
Let's go back to the Oval Office Friday.
Yep.
From your perspective.
Yeah, great TV, as the president said. Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. So we have a 45-minute press conference, and the president normally does this. I mean, I've seen this now 3 or 4 times with foreign leaders, where he likes to bring the media in, likes to have a conversation, but answer questions with the press. As you know, he's very open with reporters. And what I noticed is that for the first 25, 30 or so minutes, he tried to sort of bend over backwards to be gracious and kind to Zelensky, even when Zelensky was kind of needling him, even when Zelensky was saying things that I thought were untrue. The president just tried to be diplomatic, right? I think that's his natural instinct in that situation. And then when it really went off the rails, of course, is when I asked, or you had a Polish journalist who asked a question, the president answered it, and then I answered it, and then something about my answer just really set Zelensky off. So then he came at me.
So you're blaming yourself.
And then I went back at him, right. And what I tried to do originally was actually try to diffuse the situation a little bit, because I'm like, you know, we're having this meeting. Obviously, there are 100 television cameras here. Let's try to have this conversation in private. And then the president, as we kept on going back and forth, I tried again to say, well, maybe we should have this conversation in private. And the president was like, nope, actually, I don't want to have it in private anymore. I want to have this actual conversation in public for the American people to see. And I do think that there was just a certain sense of, there was a lack of respect. There was a certain sense of entitlement. And most importantly, look, we can look past all of that stuff, but the president has set a very clear goal for his administration. He wants the killing to stop. And I think that it's very important that President Zelensky and of course President Putin too, they've both got to come to the negotiating table, and that's ultimately where things broke apart. I really don't care what President Zelensky says about me or anybody else, but he showed a clear unwillingness to engage in the peace process that President Trump has said is the policy of the American people and of their president. That's the real breakdown, is I think Zelensky wasn't yet there, and I think frankly now still isn't there, but I think he'll get there eventually. He has to.
My understanding is he tried to get back in, or tried to stay a number of times, and then made numerous calls to come back. Is that true?
I don't know about numerous calls, but they certainly made at least one request to come back in and continue the conversation. The president was like, look, first of all, they were disrespectful. And second of all, what are we even going to talk about? They've shown a clear unwillingness to discuss the peaceful settlement that President Trump is trying to bring to this situation. I think a lot of Americans are sort of, you know, it's useful to step back and ask ourselves, what is the actual plan here? You can't just fund the war forever. The American people won't stand for it. And by the way, Sean, if you look at European opinion polls, the Europeans aren't going to stand forever for it either. We need to bring this thing to a peaceful settlement. The president was trying to do that. He'll continue to try to do that. But you've got to have two to tango. You've got to have a negotiating partner in the Ukrainians who recognize that, you know, of course they have their views, and of course they're not always going to agree with us, but they've got to participate in the conversation. They weren't willing to do that on Friday, so the president said send him home.
He said today that the war he expects will go on a very long time. I don't know where he's going to get the money to fund that war. I have my doubts that Europe will fund the war to the level that Biden and Harris were funding it. And then the issue now has come up whether or not this administration will continue to offer money and arms for this war to continue. Because without America, I would argue the president was right in saying they have no cards.
Yeah. Well, Sean, I think our European friends, frankly, are being really they're doing a disservice to the Ukrainians, because their own populations are saying, we're not going to fund this war indefinitely. The American people are saying, we don't want to fund the war indefinitely. So the only thing that is in the best interest of America, of Russia, of Ukraine, and of Europe is to bring this thing to a close. What happens, Sean, is you have Zelensky. He goes to Europe, and a lot of our European friends puff him up. They say, you know, you're a freedom fighter. You need to keep fighting forever. Well, fighting forever with what? With whose money, with whose ammunition, and with whose lives? The president is actually taking a much more realistic perspective and saying this can't go on forever. We can't fund this thing forever. The Ukrainians can't fight forever. So let's bring this thing to a peaceful settlement.
When I interviewed Zelensky,
I might speed up the put the speed up a little bit, just to get through a bit more. Let me know if this is too fast for anyone.
wouldn't give me direct answers. I asked him about the mineral deal to pay the U.S. back. To me, there's three phases in this. And my understanding was Friday was supposed to be relatively ceremonial.
It was.
And then that it was supposed to be we signed the mineral deal. That's part one. Part two would be a ceasefire. Part three would be the hardest part, the negotiated settlement with Putin, who, correct me if I'm wrong, said he's willing to talk peace with Trump.
Yeah, he said he's willing to talk peace. And of course, we trust but verify. We want to have the conversation. We don't assume that everything that anybody tells us is true. That's why we want to engage in this conversation. But you're exactly right, Sean. When the Ukrainians came to Washington on Friday, it was supposed to be ceremonial. You know, there had been some public back and forth, some disagreements, some words spoken in public. And the president was like, let's have this moment. We give some credit to the brave Ukrainian fighters. And of course, it's a very brave army that they have there in Ukraine. Let's sign this minerals deal, which importantly does two things. It allows the American people to get some of their money back, but it also shows the Ukrainian people that America has a long-term investment in their sovereignty. You do those things, we'll sign this thing, we'll have a rah-rah moment, and then we'll get to the tough talk of negotiating peace. We couldn't even get the Ukrainians to a point where they could talk about the peaceful settlement. And look, in some ways, Sean, I get it. I get the frustration. I get the rage. It's their country. Of course, it's not our country, but you've got to accept cooler heads have got to prevail. This thing cannot go on forever. This is the important point. I'd say this to of course, most importantly, the Americans who are watching, but people all over the world. When you talk to leaders in private, whether they're Ukrainian or European, when you talk to people in private, they will tell you this cannot go on forever. There aren't enough Ukrainian lives, there isn't enough American money, and there isn't enough ammunition to fund this thing indefinitely. The only realistic pathway to bringing this thing to a settlement is President Trump's pathway. We encourage both President Zelensky and President Putin to follow that path.
Well, I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent, and this came up in the discussion Friday. The Biden administration called Putin every name in the book, and they've been trying to get the president.
And he still invaded anyway.
Okay, he still invaded anyway. Well, remember, it depends if it's a minor incursion. Let's go back to that moment, which I thought as troops were amassing on the border. But I go back and I think about this, and Biden spent all of this money, called Putin, all of these names. The media and the Democrats, they want Donald Trump to call him names. And the president addressed that. And then he's supposed to call him and say, Vladimir, you ready to talk a peace now?
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
No, it's diplomacy 101, right? Is you have to have a reasonable relationship with somebody to be able to even start the conversation. We have to remember, Sean, Ukraine, half of the country, a third of the country is totally destroyed. The economy is depressed. You've got hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians. Of course, a lot of dead Russians as well. The president wants to negotiate a settlement. How can you negotiate if you can't even talk to somebody? And that's what he said. He's not saying, like, nobody's suggesting, as Secretary Rubio said, no one is suggesting that we give the Nobel Peace Prize to Vladimir Putin. What we're saying is it's important for President Trump to be able to have a conversation. That's not well served by standing up at a press conference and calling the guy every negative name in the book. By the way, as we just said, President Biden called Putin every single name in the book. What did it lead to? It led to war. It led to destruction. It led to conflict. President Trump is trying to bring this thing to a close. You got to be able to talk to somebody to do that.
Is the door open? President Trump said Friday he can come back if he wants peace. Is that door still open today?
What President Trump has said clearly and consistently is, of course, the door is open so long as Zelensky is willing to seriously talk peace. You can't come into the Oval Office or anywhere else and refuse to even discuss the details of a peace deal. Look, this is not going to make anybody happy. The Russians are going to have to give up stuff. The Ukrainians are going to have to give up stuff. You can't come to the Oval Office and say, give us security guarantees. We won't even engage with you about what we're willing to give up. That's been the Ukrainian posture. When that posture changes, as President Trump said, when they're willing to talk peace, I think President Trump will be the first person to pick up the phone.
Well, I got to imagine that.
I'll just jump to one more section from that. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I've got it here.
Go to,
people got up.
Change this to 125 if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, this one actually. Where are we? Yeah, so he made these
and
comments.
Here's the thing, you know, when you would talk to the
yeah, I'll just.
And here's the thing, you know, when you would talk to the Biden administration officials in private, this is another example of a terrible situation the Biden admin left the Trump administration. When you ask them, what's the plan? Okay, we're going to spend tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars in Ukraine. What is your plan? And they would honestly tell you, well, we're just going to send them weapons for as long as we can and hope eventually they can turn the tide. Hope is not a strategy. Throwing money and ammunition at a terrible conflict, that is not a strategy. The only guy in town with a strategy is the President of the United States, and everybody needs to follow his lead.
What scares me is Zelensky, when he says it's going to go on for years, how many more lives are going to be lost? He's not going to have a country to save at the end of that. The minerals deal would have provided the monies to rebuild their country and a strong U.S. presence and maybe European troops as well.
And this is an important part of it. The president knows that, look, if you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin does not invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That is a way better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years. The security guarantee and also the economic guarantee for Ukraine is to rebuild the country and ensure that America has a long-term interest. You're not going to do that if you come to the Oval Office, insult the president, and refuse to follow his plan for peace.
Yeah, so a few people got upset with that. Where are we? Yeah, you know, Vance confirms, where is it? He also plays down British and French peacekeeping troops as 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30, 40 years. So a lot of people from the UK getting upset, they're taking that personally, but Vance responded here, this is absurdly dishonest. I don't even mention UK or France in the clip, both of whom have fought bravely along the US over the last 20 years and beyond. I'm pretty sure just by the way he said, 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30, 40 years, I think that implies he's referring to one of the smaller European countries. But that was a bit of a blow up, you know. So we're coming to this. This is about 5 minutes away. I don't know if... Where's it starting already? What else we got? Just quickly... There was this one. Trump eventually apparently has suspended... I'll keep watching that live stream. But, yeah, President Trump on Monday temporarily suspended the delivery of all U.S. military aid to Ukraine, senior administration and military officials said, just days after Trump and Zelensky had an explosive confrontation. Check. Yep. The order affects more than $1 billion in arms and ammunition in the pipeline and on order. It resulted from a series of meetings at the White House on Monday between Mr. Trump and his senior national security aides, the official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. So that's caused a bit of a firestorm. Where are we? Getting close on this one too. I did have a bit more of Trump. Maybe we can squeeze a bit of that before we get there.
Speech, you probably heard about it tomorrow night, so I'll let you know tomorrow night. But no, I don't think so. I think it's a great deal for us because, you know, Biden very, very foolishly, stupidly, frankly, gave $300 billion and $350 billion more accurately to a country to fight and to try and do things. And you know what happened? We get nothing. Just gave it. And if we could have rebuilt our entire U.S. Navy with $350 billion. Think of it, $350 billion. We could have rebuilt our U.S. Navy. So he gave it away as fast as the money could be gone. And what we're doing is getting that all back, and a lot more than that. And but
to follow up my colleague's question from Russia saying that your foreign policy is largely in line with their vision, should that be concerning to Americans?
Said what?
Should that be concerning to Americans?
Read the statement.
That Russia says that your administration's foreign policy is, quote, largely in line with their vision.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it takes two to tango, and you're going to have to make a deal with Russia, and you're going to have to make a deal with Ukraine. You're going to have the assent, and you're going to have the consent from the European nations, because I think that's important, and from us. I think everybody has to get into a room, so to speak, and we have to make a deal. And the deal can be made very fast. It should not be that hard a deal to make. It can be made very fast. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal. I believe certainly the people of Ukraine want to make a deal. They've suffered more than anybody else. We talk about suffering. They've suffered. But if you think about it, under President Bush, they got Georgia, right? Russia got Georgia. Under President Obama, they got a nice big submarine base, a nice big chunk of land where they have this.
Just quickly share this. So you had that comment, you know, if someone doesn't want to make peace, they won't be around very long. And then Trump seemingly cut off the aid. And then you get this statement. We won't go through all of it or whatever, but, you know, I want to reiterate Ukraine's commitment to peace. None of us want an endless war. Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring a lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. Yeah, first stages could be release of prisoners and truce in the sky. Is that how it's going to go? You're just going to dictate how the thing's going to be?
Basically,
ban the missiles.
he's willing to negotiate peace as long as it's his terms and nothing less. And that's not negotiations at all. And that's all I see from him. I don't, you know, ultimately, I think the less involved he is with this, quite frankly, the better off it's going to be.
Yeah. And yeah, so we probably don't have time to get to. Looks like we're getting ready to start. Yeah, because Trump has sort of said
in the comments that this is like 10 minutes behind. I don't know if
this
live.
Who said that? Have they got a? I don't think so. But have they got a better one? This is just the AP live feed. I'm assuming it's correct, but I'll check for another link just in case.
Let's see. There you go, Chris. I got it.
I think it's right. I mean, it's the same one as all the other feeds.
It actually is. Hold on.
I think we're getting some fake news in the chat.
Let's see.
Anyway, I've got 2 feeds going. If Trump jumps early on one than the other, I'll switch to that. Because there's this feed as well. That's just another angle.
Is when the chamber is respectful, when the speaker is cheerful, and lays out where he will one day say where he believes we are headed. And based on some of the things we're all hearing and seeing and reading here in the last few minutes, the president's ready to take a 6-week, not victory lap, but tell us why things are different, why momentum is back. And he'll have to address some of the tough questions around the economy as well. But I hope Democrats listen tonight, clap when appropriate, not clap when they choose not to. But
I was like, you confused me. I'm there going, where's all these sounds coming from?
Like that.
President Trump
not attending, but
President Trump will say, according to the excerpts, our confidence is back. Our
You just want the
spirit
power.
is
You want to be
back,
able to
and the
pause.
American
You want to be
dream
able
is
to hold
surging
control.
bigger and better than ever before. It's unstoppable. So this president
couldn't hear that. You haven't.
A bit of a victory lap.
You know,
and
you're
lay
supposed to
out
put the
his
volume down a
agenda
bit when you speak or
going
pause
forward.
it.
he's talked
you know.
about a golden age for America. There you pink. Tonight, members of the Black Caucus will be in black this evening.
So let's take a moment, listen to the
What I was saying was I sent you a private chat to address that.
action down on the House floor. We're going to pause for the top of the hour. Again, President Trump just moments away. Our special coverage of tonight's joint address to Congress continues.
Don't mind us chat. We've just got a bit of a debate between me and Gary in the private
U.S.
chat.
Capitol. It's a beautiful night here in Washington. We're just moments away now from President Trump and tonight's address to a joint session of Congress. Good evening from Washington. I'm Brett Baer.
And I'm Martha McCallum. Great to have you all with us this evening.
See, what is this? My feed was so much better than this.
He will enter
Here, it's
the
real
House
simple.
floor.
We'll wait for Trump to actually show up, and then we'll play the audio, so I don't have to listen to Martha McCallum or Brett Baer. But
Well, see, the stream I had didn't have any Brett Baer or whatever that was. But anyway, you know, that's fine.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Didn't have those.
See, look at.
It had exactly what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
I am curious to what Peter Doocy
tonight. If he sticks to the script, he is expected to say Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control, and we are working hard to get it back down. He will say later this week, I will take historic action to dramatically expand production of critical minerals and rare earths here in the USA. And he will say, whatever they tariff us, we tariff them. And we can also confirm the viral tweet that was going around that the comms team here at the White House has been getting ready for tonight with a call back to the campaign
Also seems a
trail
little
and
soft
their
too.
boss's trip to a
I don't think my
drive-thru
stream had any
with
such
McDonald's.
volume issues, you know. Anyway.
Volume is perfect.
So we're getting ready for the president to walk in. At that point, you'll hear from the sergeant at arms who will announce the president. You see members assembled here as they wait. Vice President J.D. Vance, it's his first time up there on the podium. Mike Johnson as well, or was there last year for President Biden's speech. So everyone is assembled. It's a joint speech to Congress rather than a State of the Union because it's so early in the term. But as we've been saying, President Trump feels, and rightfully so, that he has quite a few things to list when he gets up there in a few minutes.
This is only the second president to do a second joint address, the other one being Grover Cleveland. As you see Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker Emeritus, they call her, sitting next to Steny Hoyer there, wearing the pink. And they are unified in their pink outfits tonight.
Remember the Pussy Hat March? That's what it reminds me of.
As Harold mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I think when Trump won last time, they took to the streets with pink pussy hats because they didn't like his funny joke about what you can do when you're famous or whatever it was.
Harold Ford Jr., former Tennessee congressman and co-host of The Five. We have a lot of those. And Larry Kudlow of Fox Business. Larry, let me start with you. Obviously heading into this speech, tariffs is the big talk of today and what it means for the U.S. economy. We assume as we're waiting for the First Lady to walk in, as she does right now, Melania Trump. What do you think about this moment and that economic issue?
Well, I think there's a lot of talk about modifying the tariffs that were slapped on Canada and Mexico today. It's a bit confusing. That's what Harold Lutnick told me on our show. You and I talked about it on your show. I don't know if the president will address the tariff thing directly. Look, I'm hoping that he has a big sort of unleash prosperity here. His whole program, cut taxes, deregulate, Doge budget cuts, including better trading tactics. I want to see a growth.
Also, the wind is going crazy out here, so you might see some,
It's going to be very optimistic. Very
I don't know, trees blowing around or something.
But on the
Some debris, some some houses flying away in the background.
Presented
Who
in
knows?
at least some general way, so that
Hopefully I'll
people
be all
know
right.
where he's headed. He's got to have growth. He's got to say, "I'm going to fatten your."
But seriously, it
wallet."
might actually be a bit rough for Brisbane. I'm safe. I'm a bit more
As you look
inland.
at the president's cabinet walking in right now.
There's the volume. I'm pretty sure that volume of Fox is probably half the volume of us. But, you know.
Scott Bessent, all the cabinet members
Okay.
walking down, doing
Have it down so we can talk.
and
And we can hear about.
Why today? See, we just had it down and we weren't talking, so I wasn't sure. Yeah, anyway.
So quickly,
We'll
there's
figure it
Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice, and Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, all looking happy and excited.
See, I
for
saw this
big
about
night
30 seconds ago. I
as
think
they
this is
wait
behind.
the president's speech.
Anyway.
These people have fanned out all over the world in many cases.
See, while we're
and
waiting,
have gotten
we've got
right
nothing
down
but
to
little,
DEI
you know,
programs.
me and Gary having a go at each other.
Also the subject of some pushback in many ways. There's
I'm just
Robert
letting
Kennedy
you go.
Jr.
You can
entering
go
the
all the
chamber
way.
right now, HHS, dealing
God's
with
about to
diesel
punish you and blow you away anyhow. So
State of the Union addresses. We
you're
keep
about
on
to be
saying
looking
this
for the
every
Wizard of
morning.
Oz,
Essentially
expecting
takes
to
the floor
Ruby.
of the State of the Union.
Yeah.
They're mostly like laundry lists or shopping lists that a president wants from Congress. We're told that this process was a little upended this time and that each one of these cabinet secretaries smoothed out, was a little bit quicker.
I've closed a bunch of windows and doors and stuff, but I got a couple that are open that are usually fine, because they've sort of got a shield from the roof or whatever. But if it gets pretty crazy out there, I might have to run and close a few extra doors.
This is a huge audience for the president tonight. One of the things that might be a little different from day to day is that it's not just political junkies or supporters or opponents, right? This is a big, broad audience. But he also is going to talk to Congress, and I think it's very important.
See, look at me, that's behind. We've got Tulsi coming in. You know, where's Tulsi on your footage? Can you see Tulsi now? This was like a minute ago.
And also, I'm very curious. Two things. One,
Well, I don't know how it's looking to everybody else, but
they decided to vote en masse.
yours is partially freezing as it's playing. But Chris, look, my feed's superior. Just go with it. Relax. Relax.
I want the best for the chat. That's all this is coming from, I want the best feed. I'm not sure this is it,
I don't know that that's your goal. But regardless, one of the things that I did think was interesting today was we saw Hillary Clinton chiming in on Ukraine and Russia and all the above. And Pete Hegseth tweeted a picture of her with the Russian reset button. And that is a part of history that I think we've forgotten a little bit. We had, and Republicans, and me included at the time, I'll be the first to admit it, we had President Trump, or President Biden, President Obama was trying to establish more diplomatic relations with Russia back then. And, that wasn't long after Mitt Romney and that whole thing with the 1980s wants their diplomacy back, their foreign policy back.
Foreign policy.
But the reality is that, we do need better relations with Russia. And at this point in the game, other than the idea that we have an entire military industrial complex and intelligence community that has been built up around having adversarial relationships with Russia, there's really no reason why we should continue this adversarial relationship with Russia.
Yeah, definitely. It makes no sense. And Russia's been keen the whole time to get along with America. After 9/11, they sort of were, one of the first to ring, and they put up some monument, I think, in New York in honor of the victims of that. Russia offered to sort of be a part of NATO. Yeah, I think that might be. I don't know.
Can you confirm or deny this scientific fact? Number one,
I can't. I'd probably have to.
do you actually
I haven't really watched.
Do you have tornadoes in Australia?
Don't think so. I'm not sure. I only hear of cyclones sometimes. Just ChatGPT just says hurricanes occur in the Atlantic Ocean, the Northeast Pacific, and the South Pacific. Cyclones occur in the Indian Ocean and the Southwest Pacific. Hang on. Yeah, hurricanes and cyclones are essentially the same type of storm, but they call different names depending where they occur. Both, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Typhoons are the term used for similar storms in the Southwest Pacific. So the classifications are based on location. But they all refer to the same type of weather system, tropical cyclones. Isn't that funny? ChatGPT says, look, they all basically refer to cyclones. It's not, they all basically refer to hurricanes. It's just the definitive title, according to GPT, is cyclones.
They ask it to create an image of anything historically. It's going to come up with a bunch of transgender people and everything else. So I don't know why you're referencing it as some sort of authority on truthfulness.
Well, it's usually pretty good with like this basic kind of stuff. You know, I didn't ask it about how many genders there are or anything like that.
When President Trump chose these people, there was all this backslash and these people will never get confirmed. But this is a president.
Trump, like usual, is like fashionably late, like sort of building the suspense. Hopefully it doesn't take too long because, you know, it would have been going 70 minutes and then he's going to go for a while, I imagine.
You know, Dana, as we wait for this, we expect any moment the president's going to walk in. But a quick thought on this issue of tariffs, which we brought up before, because this is a rocky issue for him to grapple with. I maintain that I think that the sequencing was off. I feel that, I know that President Trump has talked about tariffs a lot, but mainly when he talked to a broad audience like this and during the campaign, it was about high prices, inflation, and the economy and jobs, the border, and crime. Tariffs are something that are going to be complex to explain to people. And so I think what could have happened is why not wait until a speech like tonight to explain, dear American people, this is what I want to do, and this is why. And it might be rocky for a while, but hang with me, be patient. We're going to follow.
Dana Perino is always worth listening to.
To this end point that I see. Instead, to me, it feels slightly chaotic. Maybe that's by design. I don't know. Perhaps I'll read in a book in 20 years that this was all a strategy. But I think that going back and forth, and then you have Republicans who will defend him on tariffs and then defend the pulling back of tariffs. And it's all genius.
Metal Seer, according to Grok, no, tornadoes in Australia don't necessarily rotate the opposite direction compared to those in the U.S. The idea that they would come from a common misunderstanding about the Coriolis effect, which influences large-scale weather systems like cyclones and hurricanes. Coriolis effect does not cause low-pressure systems to rotate clockwise in the southern hemisphere like Australia, counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere like the U.S., but it's too weak to dictate the spin of something as small and as chaotic as a tornado. Tornado rotation depends more on local wind shear, how winds change speed and direction with height, than Earth's rotation. So that's how it relates to tornadoes.
And I thought that sort of came from the idea of the toilets flushing a different way down here. But I just chat GPT that, and apparently that's not true either. That's a misconception.
And we're just getting started.
So there you go.
We forget that some of this speech, maybe a significant part, Harold, is going to be about foreign policy. In the wake of what just happened in the Oval Office with President Zelensky, over the weekend he was in Europe. He made a post today that suggested Zelensky is ready to go forward. And we may hear that President Trump is getting to that point too tonight on a Ukraine minerals deal that takes you to the next step in negotiations.
He promised a stronger economy, promised no taxes on tips and ending wars. People want to hear, I think, all of that. We were all
I prefer Trump not to do the mineral deal.
You interviewed those
We'll
three
see.
leaders. To see that.
And just quickly before we get there, hang on.
Well, somebody's going to do it. Might as well be the
This is a bit of an
U.S. I mean, Australia.
Yeah.
Ukraine doesn't even have boats or planes that would get your people there. So,
Yeah, our Prime Minister said we'll stand with Ukraine and we're going to give them a bunch more money and we'd be open. Oh, hang on. Trump's there. Have you got that? Sorry. Bring the thing back up.
he's going to spend 15, 20 minutes shaking hands and kissing babies.
See, if you look at me, I'm well ahead of it. Gary's all the way back. He's still getting out the door, you know.
Yeah, if we like
And look,
watch. Let me throw yours up here. Oh, look at this. Stock.
Just give it a sec. No, it looks like it's fine. No, see, that looks stuck to me. No, go back. I think mine's fine. I think, you know.
No, yours
and you
is-
look at mine, it's a nice, beautiful full screen.
No.
Good you with all your little chirons in the way.
Yeah, look. Is Chris on dial-up?
Just give it a sec. Sometimes it takes a little while to smooth out. Okay, so give it a sec. I'm pretty sure it should be good by now, right? Let us know, chat. Is that smooth? Because, I mean, look at that beautiful full screen picture. Look at the stupid Ukraine pin on, what's that, Durban next to Schumer. There's no Fox branding. Here we are with the Counter Media podcast, and Gary wants to put up advertising for Fox, you know. I gotta hear from the chat. I don't trust Gary. Gary says it's freezing up. Of course it's like that. Chat, is it freezing up or not? I suppose it is possible the whole cyclone thing might be affecting the unit here, but I don't think so. Look at this. Me, I'm even behind the White House YouTube channel. And this is the initial stream I had that people were complaining about, you know. I think I'm going to be like the Australian Zelensky, where I just refuse to accept reality, and I will fight off America as long as it takes. Just keep giving Australia more money to fight off this occupation, even though there's no hope for us to win. There we go, even got rid of the AP logo. How good is that? To make this our own independent production. Oh, here we go. Just can't win, can we?
Speaker Johnson.
Who cares?
Vice President Vance, the First Lady of the United States.
Let the dim bit warming up. Members of the United States Congress, thank you very much. And to my fellow citizens, America is back.
Only one half gets up for that, I guess.
6 weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America. From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started. Thank you. I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back, our spirit is back, our pride is back, our confidence is back, and the American dream is surging bigger and better than ever before. The American dream is unstoppable, and our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again. There's never been anything like it. The presidential election of November 5th was a mandate like has not been seen in many decades. We won all 7 swing states, giving us an electoral college victory of 312 votes. We won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country.
What's going on here? Is there some kind of protest or something? We should probably pop us up on the screen, shouldn't we? Just to make this little experience unique to this channel.
And won counties in our country, 2,700 to 525, on a map that reads almost completely red for Republican. Now, for the first time in modern history, more Americans believe that our country is headed in the right direction than the wrong direction. In fact, it's an astonishing record, 27-point swing, the most ever.
Yeah, Wyatt, there was a bit of fireworks at Serbia's parliament. We might bring that, well, probably won't have time, but you can look that up.
Likewise,
The Serbian opposition.
small business optimism saw its single largest one-month gain ever recorded.
Mr. President.
A 41-point jump.
There was talk of protest for this thing.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning.
There's that guy standing up on the left.
Could you imagine if
Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of
the Biden
decorum, and the
administration or
chair
Biden
is prepared
speech?
to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
Everything's pretty boring without Trump, isn't it? So what is this? Who is this guy again? I forget his name.
Who?
The guy on the left that's standing up. This guy.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name either. He's another wealthiest coming back.
Mr. Green, take your seat.
Mis-
Take your seat,
Mr.
sir.
Green.
Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Go home to your mommy. Take their coats. It's like an old Trump rally. Removing the protesters.
Go. Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House. Mr. President, you continue.
Thank you. Over the past 6 weeks, I have signed nearly 100 executive orders and taken more than 400 executive actions, a record to restore common sense, safety, optimism, and wealth all across our wonderful land. The people elected me to do the job, and I'm doing it. In fact, it has been stated by many that the first month of our presidency, it's our presidency, is the most successful in the history of our nation. By many. And what makes it even more impressive is that, do you know who number 2 is? George Washington. How about that? How about that? I don't know about that list, but we'll take it. Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever. They heard my words and they chose not to come. Much easier that way. In comparison, under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history, there were hundreds of thousands of illegal crossings a month, and virtually all of them, including murderers, drug dealers, gang members, and people from mental institutions and insane asylums, were released into our country. Who would want to do that? This is my 5th such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations.
I was just about to say, I love how he's been kind of adversarial. Some other people mightn't like it.
Or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way.
I love how that gets with the other half. Just say, must steal, save Medicaid, protect veterans. It's their protest.
So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night,
why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again. Every day, my administration is fighting to deliver the change America needs to bring a future that America deserves, and we're doing it. This is a time for big dreams and bold action. Upon taking office, I imposed an immediate freeze on all federal hiring, a freeze on all new federal regulations, and a freeze on all foreign aid. I terminated the ridiculous Green New Scam. I withdrew from the unfair Paris Climate Accord, which was costing us trillions of dollars that other countries were not paying. I withdrew from the corrupt World Health Organization. And I also withdrew from the anti-American UN Human Rights Council. We ended all of Biden's environmental restrictions that were making our country far less safe and totally unaffordable. And importantly, we ended the last administration's insane electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto workers and companies from economic destruction. To unshackle our economy, I have directed that for every one new regulation, 10 old regulations must be eliminated, just like I did in my very successful first term. And in that first term, we set records on ending unnecessary rules and regulations like no other president had done before. We ordered all federal workers to return to the office. They will either show up for work in person or be removed from their job. And we have ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. How did that work out? Not too good. Not too good.
He's just dunking on the other side this whole time. Look at this.
And I have stopped all government censorship and brought back free speech in America. It's back.
I tried to bite my tongue on that one. He passed some sort of
And 2 days ago, I signed
anti-Israel
an
and
order
campus bill. I'm
making
not happy
English
about
the
that.
official language of the United States of America. I renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And likewise, I renamed, for a great president, William McKinley, Mount McKinley again. Beautiful Alaska. We love Alaska. We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military. And our country will be woke no longer. We believe that whether you are a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or an air traffic controller, you should be hired and promoted based on skill and competence, not race or gender.
Imagine
Very
that.
important.
Is that a reference to that crash too? Haven't heard much about that crash. Wasn't
should be
that lady
hired
just drove the helicopter
based
into the
on
plane?
merit. And the Supreme Court, in a brave and very powerful decision, has allowed us to do so. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have removed the poison of critical race theory from our public schools, and I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Oh, they're trolling me hard tonight. Trolling hard.
I also signed an executive order to ban men from playing in women's sports.
Oh.
3 years ago, Peyton McNabb was an all-star high school athlete, one of the best, preparing for a future in college sports. But when her girls' volleyball match was invaded by a male, he smashed the ball so hard in Peyton's face, causing traumatic brain injury, partially paralyzing her right side and ending her athletic career. It was a shot like she's never seen before. She's never seen anything like it. Peyton is here tonight in the gallery, and Peyton, from now on, schools will kick the men off the girls' team, or they will lose all federal funding. And if you really want to see numbers, just take a look at what happened in the women's boxing, weightlifting, track and field, swimming, or cycling, where a male recently finished a long-distance race 5 hours and 14 minutes ahead of a woman for a new record by 5 hours. Broke the record by 5 hours. It's demeaning for women, and it's very bad for our country. We're not going to put up with it any longer.
I think that should be a simple one to agree with, but for some reason, Democrat politicians don't.
What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world. Common sense has become a common theme, and we will never go back. Never. Never going to let that happen. Among my very highest priorities is to rescue our economy and get dramatic and immediate relief to working families.
Thanks, Larry.
As you know, we inherited from
It's usually
the
Gary's
last
right all the time.
administration an economic catastrophe and an inflation nightmare. Their policies drove up energy prices, pushed up grocery costs, and drove the necessities of life out of reach for millions and millions of Americans. They've never had anything like it. We suffered the worst inflation in 48 years, but perhaps even in the history of our country. They're not sure. As president, I'm fighting every day to reverse this damage and make America affordable again. Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control. The egg price is out of control, and we're working hard to get it back down. Secretary, do a good job on that. You inherited a total mess from the previous administration. Do a good job.
Of course, the Democrats blame Trump for that. I'm not sure the exact truth of it, but
A major focus of our fight to defeat inflation is rapidly reducing the cost of energy. The previous administration cut the number of new oil and gas leases by 95%, slowed pipeline construction to a halt, and closed more than 100 power plants. We are opening up many of those power plants right now. And frankly, we have never seen anything like it. That's why on my first day in office, I declared a national energy emergency. As you've heard me say many times, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any nation on earth, and by far. And now I fully authorize the most talented team ever assembled to go and get it. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill. My administration is also working on a gigantic natural gas pipeline in Alaska, among the largest in the world, where Japan, South Korea, and other nations want to be our partner with investments of trillions of dollars each. There's never been anything like that one. It will be truly spectacular. It's all set to go. The permitting is gotten. And later this week, I will also take historic action to dramatically expand production of critical minerals and rare earths here in the USA.
oh, what is that slap league thing from Jason's comment? It just seems strange. You know, they just slap each other, the competition. It's odd, man.
To further combat inflation, we will not only be reducing the cost of energy, but will be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars. And to that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, GOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps.
It's scrolling some more.
Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe. They just don't want to admit that. Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
I was just about to say, is that real?
$32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her? A $3.5 million consulting contract for lavish fish monitoring. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City. He's a real estate developer. He's done very well. $250,000 to increase vegan local climate action innovation in Zambia. $42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. You know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about them. They're so bad. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
It's including that one kid known by the alias Big Balls. He's doing good stuff, I think.
And we've taken back the money and reduced our debt to fight inflation and other things. Taken back a lot of that money. We got it just in time. This is just the beginning. The Government Accountability Office, a federal government office, has estimated annual fraud of over $500 billion in our nation, and we are working very hard to stop it. We're going to. We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program for our seniors, and that our seniors and people that we love rely on. Believe it or not, government databases list 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old. It lists 3.6 million people from ages 110 to 119. I don't know any of them. I know some people that are rather elderly, but not quite that elderly. 3.47 million people from ages 120 to 129. 3.9 million people from ages 130 to 139. 3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149. And money is being paid to many of them, and we're searching right now. In fact, Pam, good luck. Good luck. You're going to find it. But a lot of money is paid out to people because it just keeps getting paid, and nobody does, and it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. 1.3 million people from ages 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people, according to the Social Security databases, are age over 160 years old. We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby.
Are they clapping at that joke, or?
Including, to finish, 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229 One person between the age of 240 and 249, and one person is listed at 360 years of age. More than 100 years. More than 100 years older than our country. But we're going to find out where that money's going. And it's not going to be pretty. By slashing all of the fraud, waste, and theft we can find, we will defeat inflation, bring down mortgage rates, lower car payments and grocery prices, protect our seniors, and put more money in the pockets of American families. And today, interest rates took a beautiful drop, big, beautiful drop. It's about time. And in the near future, I want to do what has not been done in 24 years, balance the federal budget. We're going to balance it.
Crazy that that's a radical thing, to balance the budget.
With that goal in mind, we have developed in great detail what we are calling the Gold Card, which goes on sale very, very soon. For $5 million, we will allow the most successful job-creating people from all over the world to buy a path to U.S. citizenship. It's like the green card, but better and more sophisticated. And these people will have to pay tax in our country. They won't have to pay tax from where they came. The money that they've made, you wouldn't want to do that, but they have to pay tax, create jobs. They'll also be taking people out of colleges and paying for them so that we can keep them in our country instead of having them being forced out. Number one, at the top school, as an example, being forced out and not being allowed to stay and create tremendous numbers of jobs and great success for a company out there. So while we take out the criminals, killers, traffickers, and child predators who are allowed to enter our country under the open border policy of these people, the Democrats, the Biden administration, the open border insane policies that you've allowed to destroy our country, we will now bring in brilliant, hardworking, job-creating people. They're going to pay a lot of money, and we're going to reduce our debt with that money.
The child predators that were brought in by these people.
Americans have given us a mandate for bold and profound change. For nearly 100 years, the federal bureaucracy has grown until it has crushed our freedoms, ballooned our deficits, and held back America's potential in every possible way. The nation founded by pioneers and risk-takers now drowns under millions and millions of pages of regulations and debt. Approvals that should take 10 days to get instead take 10 years, 15 years, and even 20 years before you're rejected. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have not been showing up to work. My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy, and we will restore true democracy to America again.
Yeah, at least the Democrats aren't working from home. I'll give them that much, I suppose. The ones that are there.
They don't want to miss an opportunity to do something.
And any federal bureaucrat who resists this change will be removed from office immediately. Because we are draining the swamp. It's very simple. And the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over. And the next phase of our plan to deliver the greatest economy in history is for this Congress to pass tax cuts for everybody. They're in there. They're waiting for you to vote. And I'm sure that the people on my right, I don't mean the Republican right, but my right here, I'm sure you're going to vote for those tax cuts, because otherwise I don't believe the people will ever vote you into office. So I'm doing you a big favor by telling you that. But I know this group is going to be voting for the tax.
Just imagine they must be seething. Outside this whole thing.
Completely trying to table down. They thought they were going to come in here and disrupt.
It's a very, very
They
big
thought
part
they were
of
going
our
to
plan.
disrupt
We had
him.
tremendous success in
He
our first term
completely
with it. A
is
very big
taking
part
off
of our
their game.
plan. We're seeking permanent income tax cuts all across the board. And to get urgently needed relief to Americans hit especially hard by inflation, I'm calling for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors.
Love that one, especially the tax on overtime. You know, it was a thing, just sort of, I did like factory work or whatever. And the idea is like, I'd like to do some overtime, but you get taxed a ridiculous amount. It's a good incentive to keep working and good for the economy.
And I also want to make interest payments on car loans tax deductible, but only if the car is made in America.
Yeah, sometimes you're a little soft when you speak.
And by the way, we're going to have growth in the auto industry like nobody's ever seen. Plants are opening up all over the place. Deals are being made. Never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? That, along with our other policies, will allow our auto industry to absolutely boom. It's going to boom. Spoke to the majors today, all three, the top people, and they're so excited. In fact, already numerous car companies have announced that they will be building massive automobile plants in America, with Honda just announcing a new plant in Indiana, one of the largest anywhere in the world. And this has taken place since our great victory on November 5th, a date which will hopefully go down as one of the most important in the history of our country. In addition, as part of our tax cuts, we want to cut taxes on domestic production and all manufacturing. And just as we did before, we will provide 100% expensing. It will be retroactive to January 20th, 2025. And it was one of the main reasons why our tax cuts were so successful in our first term, giving us the most successful economy in the history of our country. First term. We had a great first term. If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea, but that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was, and so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to be accused of April Fool's Day. That's not, just one day was cost us a lot of money. But we're going to do it in April. I'm a very superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them.
Yeah, because I guess Canada put on some tariffs, and Trump just said he'll
non-monetary tariffs
reciprocate.
to keep us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market. There's a lot of that, too. They don't even allow us in their market. We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before. I did it with China and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer. Much has been said over the last 3 months about Mexico and Canada, but we have very large deficits with both of them. But even more importantly, they've allowed fentanyl to come into our country at levels never seen before, killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens and many very young, beautiful people, destroying families. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They are, in effect, receiving subsidies of hundreds of billions of dollars. We pay subsidies to Canada and to Mexico of hundreds of billions of dollars, and the United States will not be doing that any longer. We're not going to do it any longer. Thanks to our America First policies we're putting into place, we have had $1.7 trillion of new investment in America in just the past few weeks. The combination of the election and our economic policies that people of SoftBank, one of the most brilliant anywhere in the world, announced a $200 billion investment. OpenAI and Oracle, Larry Ellison, announced $500 billion investment, which they wouldn't have done if Kamala had won. Apple announced $500 billion investment. Tim Cook called me. He said, I cannot spend it fast enough. It's going to be much higher than that, I believe. They'll be building their plants here instead of in China. And just yesterday, Taiwan Semiconductor, the biggest in the world, most powerful in the world, has a tremendous amount, 97% of the market, announced a $165 billion investment to build the most powerful chips on earth right here in the USA.
The presser we played of Trump before was from actually a focus on that announcement, which seems pretty good. Hopefully it'll lower the risk of war with China.
And we're not giving them any money. Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars, and it doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it. All that meant to them, we're giving them no money. All that was important to them was they didn't want to pay the tariffs, so they came and they're building, and many other companies are coming. We don't have to give them money. We just want to protect our businesses and our people, and they will come because they won't have to pay tariffs if they build in America. So it's very amazing. You should get rid of the CHIP Act, and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt or any other reason you want to. Our new trade policy will also be great for the American farmer. I love the farmer.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Who will now be selling into our home market, the USA, because nobody is going to be able to compete with you. Because there's goods that come in from other countries and companies. They're really in a bad position in so many different ways. They're uninspected. They may be very dirty and disgusting, and they come in and they pour in, and they hurt our American farmers. The tariffs will go on agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers, starting on April 2nd, it may be a little bit of an adjustment period. We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases, and I said, just bear with me, and they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again, and this will be even better. That was great. The problem with it was that Biden didn't enforce it. He didn't enforce it. $50 billion of purchases, and we were doing great, but Biden did not enforce it, and it hurt our farmers. But
Just kidding.
our farmers are
Bring
going to
that
have
up.
a field day right
Judge
now.
Minion.
So to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too. I love you too. It's all going to happen. And I have also imposed a 25% tariff on foreign aluminum, copper, lumber, and steel, because if we don't have, as an example, steel and lots of other things, we don't have a military, and frankly, we just won't have a country very long. Here today is a proud American steelworker, fantastic person from Decatur, Alabama, Jeff Denard. Has been working at the same steel plant for 27 years in a job that has allowed him to serve as the captain of his local volunteer fire department, raise 7 children with his beautiful wife, Nicole, and over the years provide a loving home for more than 40 foster children. So great, Jeff.
I'll never say whatever that word is. Don't know what that is.
Thank you, Jeff.
Called aluminium.
Thank you, Jeff.
Aluminium.
Stories like Jeff's remind us that tariffs are not just about protecting American jobs. They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh. And look where Biden took us, very low, the lowest we've ever been. Jeff, I want to thank you very much. And I also want to recognize another person who has devoted herself to foster care community. She works so hard on it. A very loving person, our magnificent First Lady of the United States.
He was talking about Australian aluminium, Jeff. He fears the superior stuff.
Melania's work has yielded incredible results, helping prepare our nation's future leaders as they enter the workforce. Our First Lady is joined by 2 impressive young women, very impressive. Haley Ferguson, who benefited from the First Lady's Fostering the Future initiative and is poised to complete her education and become a teacher. And Elliston Berry, who became a victim of an illicit deepfake image produced by a peer. With Elliston's help, the Senate just passed the Take It Down Act, and this is so important. Thank you very much, John. John Thune, thank you. Stand up, John. Thank you, John. Thank you all very much. Thank you. And thank you to John Thune and the Senate. Great job. To criminalize the publication of such images online is terrible.
By the way, Cyclone's going to could
And
reach up
once
to
it
100
passes the
miles
House,
per
I
hour
look
winds. Thank you
forward
very
to
much, Jeff.
signing
It's about
that
10 times
bill
more than 10.
into law. Thank you. And I'm going to use that bill for myself, too, if you don't mind. Because nobody gets treated worse than I do online. Nobody. That's great. Thank you very much to the Senate. Thank you. But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders. Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. Many of them were murderers, human traffickers, gang members, and other criminals from the streets of dangerous cities all throughout the world. Because of Joe
Sorry,
Biden's
Jason, not
insane
Jeff.
and very
But I will
dangerous
continue
open
saying Jeff,
border policies.
as much as I please.
They are now strongly embedded in our country, but we are getting them out and getting them out fast. And I want to thank Tom Homan and Christy. I want to thank you and Paul of Border Patrol. I want to thank you. What a job they've all done. Everybody, Border Patrol, ICE, law enforcement in general is incredible. We have to take care of our law enforcement. Have to.
No,
Last
they don't.
year-
I'm sure we learned earlier. Same rule.
A brilliant 22-year-old nursing student named Laken Riley, the best in her class, admired by everybody, went out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia. That morning, Laken was viciously attacked, assaulted, beaten, brutalized, and horrifically murdered. Laken was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien gang member who was arrested while trespassing across Biden's open southern border and then set loose into the United States under the heartless policies of that failed administration. It was indeed a failed administration. He had then been arrested and released in a Democrat-run sanctuary city, a disaster, before ending the life of this beautiful young angel. With us this evening are Laken's beloved mother, Allison, and her sister, Lauren. Last year, I told Laken's grieving parents that we would ensure their daughter would not have died in vain. That's why the very first bill I signed into law as your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety. It's a very strong, powerful act. It's called.
That's the Australian FEMA being mobilized right there, by the way.
Beautiful Laken Hope Riley.
How fast are the winds in your hurricanes or whatever? Apparently 100 miles an hour is nothing. What do you get?
Thank you very much. Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you.
I imagine we'll get to Ukraine at some point. I'm not sure if there'll be any new announcements I was kind of hoping for.
The media
we'll see.
and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed.
No, I actually converted them.
was a
We're
new
getting
president.
160 kilometers per hour, and that's 100 miles, don't get out there.
Thank you. Joe Biden didn't just open our borders, he flew illegal aliens over them to overwhelm our schools, hospitals, and communities throughout the country. Entire towns like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, buckled under the weight of the migrant occupation and corruption like nobody's ever seen before. Beautiful towns destroyed. Now, just as I promised in my inaugural address, we are achieving the great liberation of America.
Yeah, I was kind of got a comment. You had the two people right next to the family, and they're just sitting there. One lady
But
eventually got
there
up. The other person he started putting his head in his hands or
There's
something.
much work to be done. Here tonight is a woman I have gotten to know Alexis Nungary from Houston. Wonderful woman. Last June, Alexis's 12-year-old daughter, her precious Jocelyn, walked to a nearby convenience store. She was kidnapped, tied up, assaulted for 2 hours under a bridge, and horrifically murdered. Arrested and charged with this heinous crime are 2 illegal alien monsters from Venezuela, released into America by the last administration through their ridiculous open border. The death of this beautiful 12-year-old girl and the agony of her mother and family touched our entire nation greatly. Alexis, I promised that we would always remember your daughter, your magnificent daughter, and earlier tonight I signed an order keeping my word.
Got a prediction here from Metalcia.
One thing I have learned about
Punchline of the
Jocelyn
night,
is
signed
that she
minerals deal
loved
with
animals so
We'll
much.
see.
She loved nature.
Maybe.
Across Galveston Bay, from where Jocelyn lived in Houston, you will find a magnificent national wildlife refuge, a pristine, peaceful, 34,000-acre sanctuary for all of God's creatures on the edge of the Gulf of America. Alexis, moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would, may I have the order?
I wonder who this lady is in the red. She's been up a few times. On the other side. Thanks, Gareth. It's a little much, but I'll take it. The most awesome
Thank you
person
very
around
much.
here. You hear that, Gary?
All 3 savages charged with Jocelyn and Lakin's murders were members of the Venezuelan prison gang, the toughest gang, they say, in the world,
Cheers.
known as Tren de Aragua. 2 weeks ago, I officially designated this gang, along with MS-13 and the bloodthirsty Mexican drug cartels, as foreign terrorist organizations.
Just look at this coming from Mr. Liberty and Freedom and all that.
They are now officially in the same category as ISIS, and that's not good for them. Countless thousands of these terrorists were welcomed into the U.S. by the Biden administration. But now every last one will be rounded up and forcibly removed from our country, or, if they're too dangerous, put in jails, standing trial in this country, because we don't want them to come back ever. With us this evening is a warrior on the front lines of that battle, Border Patrol Agent Roberto Ortiz. Great guy.
Jason's being funny than that.
In January, Roberto and another agent were patrolling by the Rio Grande near an area known as Cartel Island. Doesn't sound too nice to me. When heavily armed gunmen started shooting at them, Roberto saw that his partner was totally exposed, at great danger, and he leapt into action, returning fire and providing crucial seconds for his fellow agent to seek safety, just barely. I have some of the prints of that event, and it was not good. Agent Ortiz, we salute you for your great courage and for your line of fire that you took, and for the bravery that you showed. We honor you, and we will always honor you. Thank you, Roberto, very much. Thank you, Roberto. And I actually got to know him on my many calls to the border. He's a great, great gentleman. The territory to the immediate south of our border is now dominated entirely by criminal cartels that murder, rape, torture, and exercise total control. They have total control over a whole nation, posing a grave threat to our national security. The cartels are waging war on America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels, which we are doing. Five nights ago, Mexican authorities, because of our tariff policies being imposed on them, think of this, handed over to us 29 of the biggest cartel leaders in their country. That has never happened before. They want to make us happy. First time ever. But we need Mexico and Canada to do much more than they've done, and they have to stop the fentanyl and drugs pouring into the USA. They're going to stop it. I have sent Congress a detailed funding request laying out exactly how we will eliminate these threats to protect our homeland and complete the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than current record holder President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a moderate man, but someone who believed very strongly in borders. Americans expect Congress to send me this funding without delay so I can sign it into law. So, Mr. Speaker, John Thune, both of you, I hope you're going to be able to do that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Leader, thank you. Thank you very much. And let's get it to me. I'll sign it so fast, you won't even believe it.
What does that even mean? Imagine seeing someone sign something and you're like, I can't believe the speed of that signature. Or, how quick you...
And as we reclaim our sovereignty, we must also bring back law and order to our cities and towns. In recent years, our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics. Many jurisdictions virtually ceased enforcing the law against dangerous repeat offenders while weaponizing law enforcement against political opponents like me. My administration has acted swiftly and decisively
What did I do, Jarek?
to restore
2 and
fair,
6.
equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law, starting at the FBI and the DOJ. Pam, good luck. Cash, wherever you may be, good luck. Good luck. Pam Bondi, good luck. So important. Going to do a great job. Cash, thank you. Thank you, Cash.
I was just saying that some of Trump's sayings, they aren't actually literal, you know, but that's not
They've already started
a big
very
surprise as
strong.
part of
They're
the
gonna do
show.
a fantastic job. You're going to be very proud of them. We're also once again giving our police officers the support, protection, and respect they so dearly deserve. They have to get it. They have such a hard, dangerous job, but we're going to make it less dangerous. The problem is the bad guys don't respect the law, but they're starting to respect it, and they soon will respect it. This also includes our great fire departments throughout the country. Our firemen and women are unbelievable people, and we'll never forget them. And besides that, they voted for me in record numbers, so I have no choice.
I think I jumped the border into the StreamYard's back door.
1 year ago this month, 31-year-old New York police officer Jonathan Diller, unbelievably wonderful person and a great officer, was gunned down at a traffic stop on Long Island. I went to his funeral. The vicious criminal charged with his murder had 21 prior arrests, and they were rough arrests, too. He was a real bad one. The thug in the seat next to him had 14 prior arrests, and went by the name of Killer. He was Killer. He killed other people, they say, a lot of them. I attended Officer Diller's service, and when I met his wife and one-year-old son, Ryan, it was very inspirational, actually. His widow's name is Stephanie, and she is here tonight. Stephanie, thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much.
Sure, Gary knows what an asset I am. He
Stephanie,
just
we're
likes
going to
put up
make
this
sure
act
that
like he
Ryan
doesn't.
knows his dad
Don't
was
be
a
fooled.
true hero, New York's finest. And we're going to get these cold-blooded killers and repeat offenders off our streets, so we're going to do it fast. Got to stop it. They get out with 28 arrests. They push people into subway trains. They hit people over the head, back of the head with baseball bats. We got to get them out of here. I've already signed an executive order requiring a mandatory death penalty for anyone who murders a police officer. And tonight I'm asking Congress to pass that policy into permanent law. I'm also asking for a new crime bill getting tough on repeat offenders while enhancing protections for America's police officers so they can do their jobs without fear of their lives being totally destroyed. They don't want to be killed. We're not going to let them be killed. Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service. Thank you, DJ. DJ's doctors believe his cancer likely came from a chemical he was exposed to when he was younger. Since 1975, rates of child cancer have increased by more than 40%. Reversing this trend is one of the top priorities for our new presidential commission to make America healthy again, chaired by our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. With the name Kennedy, you would have thought everybody over here would have been cheering. How quickly they forget. Our goal is to get toxins out of our environment, poisons out of our food supply, and keep our children healthy and strong. As an example, not long ago, and you can't even believe these numbers, 1 in 10,000 children had autism, 1 in 10,000. And now it's 1 in 36. There's something wrong. 1 in 36. Think of that. So we're going to find out what it is, and there's nobody better than Bobby and all of the people that are working with you. You have the best to figure out what is going on. Okay, Bobby? Good luck. It's a very important job. Thank you. Go get him. Thank you. My administration is also working to protect our children from toxic ideologies in our schools. A few years ago, January Littlejohn and her husband discovered that their daughter's school had secretly socially transitioned their 13-year-old little girl. Teachers and administrators conspired to deceive January and her husband while encouraging her daughter to use a new name and pronouns. They, them pronoun, actually, all without telling January, who is here tonight and is now a courageous advocate against this form of child abuse. January, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Stories like this are why, shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order banning public schools from indoctrinating our children with transgender ideology. I also signed an order to cut off all taxpayer funding to any institution that engages in the sexual mutilation of our youth. And now I want Congress to pass a bill permanently banning and criminalizing sex changes on children and forever ending the lie that any child is trapped in the wrong body. This is a big lie. And our message to every child in America is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you.
That was a pretty great one.
Because we're getting wokeness out of our schools and out of our military, and it's already out, and it's out of our society. We don't want it. Wokeness is trouble. Wokeness is bad. It's gone. It's gone. And we feel so much better for it, don't we? Don't we feel better? Our service members won't be activists and ideologues. They will be fighters and warriors. They will fight for our country. And Pete, congratulations. Secretary of Defense, congratulations.
It's basically just Trump on a victory
He's not
tour.
big into the woke
Jason
movement, I can tell you. I know him well.
rubbing it in.
I am pleased to report that in January, the U.S. Army had its single best recruiting month in 15 years and that all armed services are having among the best recruiting results ever in the history of our services. What a difference. And you know, it was just a few months ago where the results were exactly the opposite. We couldn't recruit anywhere. We couldn't recruit. Now we're having the best results just about that we've ever had. What a tremendous turnaround. It's really a beautiful thing to see. People love our country again. It's very simple. They love our country, and they love being in our military again. So it's a great thing, and thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. We're joined tonight by a young man, Jason Hartley, who knows the weight of that call of duty. Jason's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all wore the uniform. Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a six-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets. Thank you. Jason, you're going to be on the long gray line, Jason. As Commander-in-Chief, my focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. As a first step, I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland, all made in the USA. And Ronald Reagan wanted to do it long ago, but the technology just wasn't there, not even close. But now we have the technology. It's incredible, actually. And other places, they have it. Israel has it. Other places have it. And the United States should have it too, right, Tim, right? They should have it too. So I want to thank you. But it's a very, very important. This is a very dangerous world. We should have it. We want to be protected, and we're going to protect our citizens like never before. To boost our defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding. And for that purpose, I am announcing tonight that we will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer special tax incentives to bring this industry home to America where it belongs. We used to make so many ships. We don't make them anymore very much, but we're going to make them very fast, very soon. It will have a huge impact. To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it. Just today, a large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. The Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others, but others could use it. But it was built at tremendous cost of American blood and treasure. 38,000 workers died building the Panama Canal. They died of malaria. They died of snake bites and mosquitoes. Not a nice place to work. They paid them very highly to go there, knowing there was a 25% chance that they would die. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1, but that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
I don't mind pushing to get American companies in there as opposed to Chinese companies, but taking it back is anything more than that.
And we have Marco Rubio in charge. Good luck, Marco. Now, we know who to blame if anything goes wrong. Marco's been amazing, and he's going to do a great job. Think of it. He got 100 votes. You know, he was approved with actually 99, but the 100th was this gentleman, and I feel very certain. So let's assume he got 100 votes. And I'm either very, very happy about that or I'm very concerned about it. But he's already proven. I mean, he's a great gentleman. He's respected by everybody, and we appreciate you voting for Marco. He's going to do a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. He's doing a great job. Great job. And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe. We will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before. It's a very small population, but very, very large piece of land and very, very important for military security. America is once again standing strong against the forces of radical Islamic terrorism. 3.5 years ago, ISIS terrorists killed 13 American service members and countless others in the Abbey Gate bombing during the disastrous and incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan. Not that they were withdrawing, it was the way they withdrew. Perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. Tonight, I am pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for that atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice.
The Democrats haven't stood once, have they?
Nope.
And I want to thank especially the government of Pakistan for helping arrest this monster. This was a very momentous day for those 13 families who I actually got to know very well, most of them, whose children were murdered, and the many people that were so badly, over 42 people, so badly injured on that fateful day in Afghanistan. What a horrible day. Such incompetence was shown that when Putin saw what happened, I guess he said, wow, maybe this is my chance. That's how bad it was. Should have never happened. Grossly incompetent people. I spoke to many of the parents and loved ones, and they're all in our hearts tonight. Just spoke to them on the phone. We had a big call. Every one of them called, and everybody was on the line, and they did nothing but cry with happiness. They were very happy, as happy as you can be under those circumstances. Their child brother, sister, son, daughter was killed for no reason whatsoever. In the Middle East, we're bringing back our hostages from Gaza. In my first term, we achieved one of the most groundbreaking peace agreements in generations, the Abraham Accords.
He's even getting applause for his first time. That's how good he is at speaking.
And now we're going to build on that foundation to create a more peaceful and prosperous future for the entire region. A lot of things are happening in the Middle East. People haven't been talking about that so much lately with everything going on with Ukraine and Russia. But a lot of things are happening in the Middle East. It's a rough neighborhood, actually. I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with
Is that a Democrat's
no
call?
anything.
That clap is for sending, what is it, hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. With no
Do you want to
security
keep
on
it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
Oh, that is hilarious.
2,000 people are being killed every single week. More than that. They're Russian young people. They're Ukrainian young people. They're not Americans, but I want it to stop. Meanwhile, Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine, by far. Think of that. They've spent more buying Russian oil and gas than they have defending. And we've spent perhaps $350 billion, like taking candy from a baby. That's what happened. And they've spent $100 billion. What a difference that is. And we have an ocean separating us, and they don't. But we're getting along very well with them, and lots of good things are happening. Biden has authorized more money in this fight than Europe has spent by billions and billions of dollars. It's hard to believe that they wouldn't have stopped it and said, at some point, come on, let's equalize. You got to be equal to us. But that didn't happen. Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Wouldn't peace be beautiful? And half of them will stay seated.
Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Oh no, I said Ukraine being ready to sign it at any time.
It's
I said
time
it's
to
new,
stop
but no,
this
that's in the tweet as
madness.
well.
It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end this senseless war. If you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides. Nearly 4 years ago, amid rising tensions, a history teacher named Mark Fogel was detained in Russia and sentenced to 14 years in a penal colony. Rough stuff. The previous administration barely lifted a finger to help him. They knew he was innocent, but they had no idea where to begin. But last summer, I promised his 95-year-old mother, Malphine, that we would bring her boy safely back home. After 22 days in office, I did just that, and they are here tonight.
And the Dems still don't stand a clap.
I think he got caught with some kind of marijuana, maybe for medical reasons, supposedly, but Russia said he was like a dealer or something like that and gave him a harsh sentence. But as Trump saying he's innocent, I don't know the details, but yeah, it's good that he's out.
To Mark and his great mom, we are delighted to have you safe and sound and with us. As fate would have it, Mark Fogel was born in a small rural town in Butler, Pennsylvania. Have you heard of it? Where his mother has lived for the past 78 years. I just happened to go there last July 13th for a rally. That was not pleasant. And that is where I met his beautiful mom right before I walked onto that stage. And I told her I would not forget what she said about her son. And I never did I? Never forgot. Less than 10 minutes later, at that same rally, gunfire rang out, and a sick and deranged assassin unloaded 8 bullets from his sniper's perch into a crowd of many thousands of people. My life was saved by a fraction of an inch, but some were not so lucky. Corey Comparator was a firefighter, a veteran, a Christian, a husband, a devoted father, and above all, a protector.
I think
when
the
the
family
sound
might
of
be there.
gunshots pierced the air, it was a horrible sound. Corey knew instantly what it was and what to do. He threw himself on top of his wife and daughters and shielded them from the bullets with his own body. Corey was hit really hard. You know the story from there. He sacrificed his life to save theirs. 2 others, very fine people, were also seriously hit. But thankfully, with the help of 2 great country doctors, we thought they were gone and they were saved. So those doctors had great talent. We're joined by Corey's wife, Helen, who was his high school sweetheart, and their 2 beloved daughters, Allison and Kaylee. Thank you. To Helen, Allison, and Kaylee, Corey is looking down on his 3 beautiful ladies right now, and he is cheering you on. He loves you. He is cheering you on. Corey was taken from us much too soon, but his destiny was to leave us all with a shining example of the selfless devotion of a true American patriot. It was love like Corey's that built our country, and it's love like Corey's that is going to make our country more majestic than ever before. I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that. Thank you.
That statement right there is going to make Tim's heads explode.
Yeah, they've never liked that one. He probably believes it and can make a good case for it.
Thank you very much. From the patriots of Lexington and Concord to the heroes of Gettysburg and Normandy, from the warriors who crossed the Delaware to the trailblazers who climbed the Rockies, and from the legends who soared at Kitty Hawk, to the astronauts who touched the moon. Americans have always been the people who defied all odds, transcended all dangers, made the most extraordinary sacrifices, and did whatever it took to defend our children, our country, and our freedom. And as we have seen in this chamber tonight, that same strength, faith, love, and spirit is still alive and thriving in the hearts of the American people. Despite the best efforts of those who would try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free, and we will fight for it till death. We will never let anything happen to our beloved country, because we are a country of doers, dreamers, fighters, and survivors. Our ancestors crossed a vast ocean, strode into the unknown wilderness, and carved their fortunes from the rock and soil of a perilous and very dangerous frontier. They chased our destiny across a boundless continent. They built the railroads, laid the highways, and graced the world with American marvels like the Empire State Building, the mighty Hoover Dam, and the towering Golden Gate Bridge. They lit the world with electricity, broke free of the force of gravity, fired up the engines of American industry, vanquished the communists, fascists, and Marxists all over the world, and gave us countless modern wonders sculptured out of iron, glass, and steel. We stand on the shoulders of these pioneers who won and built the modern age. These workers who poured their sweat into the skylines of our cities. These warriors who shed their blood on fields of battle and gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. Now it is our time to take up the righteous cause of American liberty. And it is our turn to take America's destiny into our own hands and begin the most thrilling days in the history of our country. This will be our greatest era. With God's help, over the next 4 years, we are going to lead this nation even higher, and we are going to forge the freest, most advanced, most dynamic, and most dominant civilization ever to exist on the face of this earth. We are going to create the highest quality of life, build the safest and wealthiest and healthiest and most vital communities anywhere in the world. We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond. And through it all, we are going to rediscover the unstoppable power of the American spirit. And we are going to renew unlimited promise of the American dream. Every single day, we will stand up and we will fight, fight, fight for the country our citizens believe in and for the country our people deserve. My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future, because the golden age of America has only just begun. It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
There you go. That was a pretty long one. It was about, what, an hour 40 at least.
It was right at 2 hours. Wow. We got over here, yeah. About an hour 45, hour 50.
I loved all the references to these people over here, these Democrats. Yeah, they don't want to do this, or they cause this problem, or they. So they're going to be so upset with all this. So it'll be interesting to see their response, because they're probably going to have a bit of a meltdown.
But I got to go to bed. You want to cover their response tomorrow, or you want to cover it on your own tonight, Chris? I don't care. I'll turn over the.
Oh no, I'm probably ready to.
The audience, it might. I mean, completely up to you. I think most people are going to bed, but maybe worth covering. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, no, probably 3 hours is probably enough. I got to have some breakfast. Actually, I slept in a little bit. I haven't actually eaten, so I've been doing all this all this hard work.
Oh,
watching the stream on an empty stomach.
Muffin, you got a low blood sugar muffin? Cupcake.
Yeah. Hey, you're the one going to bed. You're the one like, I can't stay up past, what time is it there now?
It's 11 p.m.
Sure, there's an
I got Muay Thai in the morning. I got to go spar, kick some ass, and take some names at 7 a.m. in the morning. Go freaking
whatever.
Muay Thai.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. You know?
Throw an elbow at him, then knee him in the face. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to start off with my 15-year-old son as a warm-up. I like to beat him up in the morning. It makes me happy. All right, folks.
We could do it. Yeah, so we could do it tomorrow night, but then we've got the show again the night after that. So I don't know if we're going to go that heavy, but possibly.
Oh, we'll talk. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. All right, folks.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. I think that was a great speech, by the way. There's a lot that we could go back over. A lot of points that he covered. The best thing, the real important point of this is the way that he trolled the Democrats all throughout that. I think they thought that they were going to come in and troll him. Man, he just turned the tables on them completely. I don't even think they knew really how to respond. I think a lot of them were sitting in their seats just slack-jawed in awe, trying to figure out what to even do with how he just pointed directly at them and called them out for the bullshit that they pull, for who they are, for their politics, how destructive their politics and policies have been on our country. And I think they were completely caught off guard and caught by surprise. So pretty good stuff there overall.
They just had their stupid little signs, and you had that Green standing up making a fool of himself. I'm not even sure what his whole deal was. He was complaining about, the US vote with Russia not being too harsh, trying to be more diplomatic in the UN. So I don't know if that's what he's complaining about, but yeah, they sat down the whole time. I love when Trump said, the Democrats spent hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. I think you could hear the Democrats first time, they're like getting ready to clap that. And Trump's like, oh, you want that to continue for another 5 years? And then hear something, and he's like, oh, Pocahontas says yes.
Oh, yeah, that was the best part all night. He literally called Pocahontas right to her face. I freaking loved it. Yeah, that was amazing. All right, folks, I think we're going to call it tonight. And until next time.
We'll definitely hit the response. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or the next day, our usual, was it Friday? We'll get there, the regular programming one day with the Tuesday and Monday and Thursday for you guys. For me, it's Tuesday and Friday. So I always get confused, like having to, convert it to American time,
I'm doing 3 podcasts a week, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And trying to run a business and do all the things. All right, folks. We will let you know what's going on tomorrow, early tomorrow. And so for tomorrow night, stay tuned. And or Thursday. We'll let you know. We'll try to make it happen. All right. You guys hang loose. Have a good night. Love you all. Talk to you later.